Sports Beat Radio, presented by Indy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another
it!
one!
Oladipo!
Another one!
Huge hole. He's at the 30. He's going to go. 10, 5, touchdown. Jonathan Taylor.
Worked out by Burke. Bounces into Cody. Puts it up. Scores!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody, and good Friday morning, or good Friday, I should say. Kevin Brockway with us. Hey, Kevin, how are you doing, sir?
I thought Good Friday was in April, not September.
Yeah. Well, it's any Friday's a good Friday because it's Friday, right?
And it's football season, right?
How's everybody doing? I hope having a great day or a great start to the day as getting ready to start the weekend. Got football on Saturday. Can't wait. Under the lights even. So that'd be cool. It just seems to make it a little more electric when you're under the lights, Kevin.
Yeah. I was talking about this with John off air, but I am going to be fascinated to see the crowd who shows up. You know, how packed is Memorial Stadium going to be coming off 2020, coming off, the historic season, but also maybe the walkout sales. Will they be impacted by the Iowa, game, or will they even be impacted by COVID? Will people be scared to go to the stadium because of, concerns about that? So I think there are all sorts of factors in play. You'd like to see a really good crowd. You'd like to see them come in and at least, support the team, particularly for what they did last season and, the last two seasons. And I think people will be jonesed up for football. Season ticket sales are up between 10 and 20%, I've heard. So it should be a good crowd, but we will see.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. You got basketball going on. It's an evaluation period. Coaches out on the road as well. Indiana making some offers. We'll talk about that. 5-star Kwame Evans Jr., one of those to get that big-time player. Got tons of big-time football games this week to talk about in addition to Indiana. Iowa State. That's a really big game coming off of playing Iowa last week.
Yeah. And I was talking to some writers in the press box after the game last week, and they hate that week. They do not like it because there's always stuff stirred up between the two schools, and there's always something that's going on, and they have to write a ton of stories. And the Cy-Hawk Trophy, though, and I guess ESPN Game Day is going to be there, right? So that's a big thing. So certainly Kirk Ferentz and Iowa, certainly, they're up to number 10 in the country coming off the big win against the Hoosiers. I looked this up, Jim. Last time Indiana did not score a touchdown in a game, what year? Your guess.
Oh, great question. I'm going to go, I will go back to 1985.
No. Sooner than that. 2017 against Michigan State. They lost 17-9. But also
yes.
Yes.
That a game they could have won that was very close, by the way.
Yeah.
They let them score that last touchdown to get the ball back, and it damn near worked.
Yeah. And fewest points that they scored against Iowa, that 31-6 since 2013, 51-3 loss at Wisconsin.
That
was the one shocking thing to me. For as bad as, obviously the turnovers, you get in a hole early, you're down 14-0. But the shocking thing to me was the offense not even getting in the end zone in your season opener.
Not getting in. They didn't smell the end zone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Penix had a shot with Peyton Henderson. He had him open the end zone. He overthrew him. That was the one shot they had. And then I think also that long pass to Freifogel, remember, when he kind of stumbled a little bit and he stayed on his feet there, he might have gotten either the end zone or close enough to the goal line where they would have plunged him in. Those were like really the two opportunities. But at the end of the day, it didn't really matter much because, they lost anyway.
They certainly did, and they lost soundly. Defense did a fine job, as we've talked about. They only gave up 16, 17 points, something like that. So that's just a game you have to win, when you are, especially a team as good as Iowa, and you were able to hold them to that at home.
I thought line of scrimmage particularly, defensively, they held their own. They lined up wrong on the one play to Goodson. That was the big chunk play, the big play that they gave up. But if you look at that, you take that play away, it's, probably about 100 yards rushing. Petrus didn't do much in the passing game. It's just the mistakes. You give away 17 points for a team like Iowa. And you don't necessarily know for sure. You held them to 3 points in the second half. Was Iowa taking its foot off the gas or not? But
they never had their foot on the gas.
I think
their offense
defense
didn't do much.
Yeah, I think they did. They converted to 4th and 2, and Petrus had the other touchdown. So they did have 2 touchdowns against the defense. One on the big play, and they had 1 drive. And on the 1 drive, the 4th and 2 play was really the killer. You got to stop there, maybe things are a little different. But I just think that there was a lot to the defense even forced 2 turnovers too. I mean, it wasn't like they did they were completely outclassed out there. I think they held their own, and I think that's why Ryder Anderson said what he said, which is I think this is still a pretty good football team. It'll be interesting to see too the 2 preseason All-Americans on defense, McFadden and Tywan Mullen. Didn't really make a lot of plays in that game, and maybe it was because of the game planning away from them. Certainly in the case of Taiwan, maybe not throwing to a side very much, but that'll be interesting to see going forward if teams are actually going to even throw on Taiwan's side this season, or if he's going to get kind of like that Darrelle Revis treatment.
I would imagine so. I mean, you're an All-American. Why would you throw at him unless you're even? There's no reason to throw at him. But anyway, looking forward to that going forward. I don't know how, and they should get tested Saturday, the secondary, because you're playing against a Petrino, man. That's what they do. Not necessarily just throw the ball, but it's going to be you can expect to see some offensive attempts.
Yeah, and I looked at the box score of that game, and Division II team, they trounced them 16-0. They actually ran for over 300 yards in that game too, and their quarterbacks run a little bit. So they do multiple things, like Tom Allen said in the press conference on Thursday. They're not just strictly a passing team, but you would think against a team like Indiana with their horses up front, their big guys up front, their front 7. They'll probably stop the run and make them throw, and just go from there.
Absolutely, lots of games. Even have football games tonight that we'll get to talk about. Todd Leary is going to join us. We're going to talk some Indiana basketball. Like I said, we got some recruiting to get to. John, what else do we have? I'm running around. I can't even remember. We
also have our trivia question today.
Oh yeah. Trivia question.
I was trying to butt in at the last second, but I was too late. I was going to tell Kevin to save it and have the audience answer that later, but
the last time they scored a touchdown didn't score.
Yeah. Kevin, that we have 4 tickets to give away, and that would have been the perfect question. That would have been the perfect question.
4 tickets
because that's not. Yeah, we have 4 tickets for tomorrow night's game, to the Idaho game. If you are interested and can go within the show, we're going to figure out how you're going to do that.
By the way, I'm guessing you talked about this yesterday, but I did see the Facebook pictures of GNR show. You must have been thrilled.
I must have. Yes, very much so. Yes, it was fun. Getting out and getting in, going to see a concert, man. Although Lucas Oil Stadium, while a great venue for football, is not such for concerts. The acoustics are just not built for a concert, man. I wish the one thing it was closed. I wish they would have opened it.
Yeah,
it would have been like an outdoor atmosphere at least, and that would have probably felt a little better. But I mean, it was fine. It was great.
How far were you sitting away? What deck were you in?
14th row, baby, on the floor. Thank you very much.
How did you get those tickets?
Purchase them. You buy them.
You didn't get a deal or have a connection or anything like that? You just
nope. This is straight up purchase, man. Nope.
Good for you, man.
Nope. So yeah, that just works for sports, man. Jesse says good morning from St. Pete Beach.
There you go, baby.
A little vacation.
Go to Keegan's for a grouper sandwich.
No, go to let's see. Oh, yeah. Well, you know that place. How many points should we expect this Saturday from the offense since last Saturday was a debacle? That's actually a good question because they're playing a team that is far below them. That actually, when this game was scheduled, Idaho was an FBS team, and now they have dropped down to an FCS team, which means basically Division II. So Indiana's playing a Division II team, in essence. So there's your answer. You've got an Indiana team who was considered to be a challenge in the Big Ten East playing a Division II team. How many points? I don't know how many, but they should thoroughly thrash this team. You would think. What happens? That's a different story. I'll be honest with you. And I'm going to wait till after this game, but if things don't change, Tom Allen has a quarterback problem. And it's not that he's lost his ability, but I think it was it you that, or I think it was Rick Bozich maybe that said he would talk to someone about coming back from having to come back from 2 ACL injuries. It's the mental part of getting past the fear of getting hurt again. And I mean, I can't speak for Michael Penix, but I don't know that he is. He didn't appear that way.
Do you trust it? I think that's the big thing. It's, and that was a question I asked before the season began. Do you trust the injury? Athletes talk about that all the time. And he gave the right answer before the game, but clearly you could see, particularly on that third interception, that, he's still unsure, caught in between, do I run out of bounds? Am I afraid to even run out of bounds and I decelerate, right? Am I going to, because that's how the second ACL injury happened. He wasn't even in. He was just running out of bounds and he decelerated and he popped it. So
I use a 30-point favorite, man.
What?
I use a 30-point favorite. So
yeah, you would have to think. The other thing about the offense, too, that will be interesting will be the return of Luke Haggard and the offensive line and how the offensive line plays this week with him back. And will it make a significant difference? Because that offensive line, there were a lot of high expectations. They did not look good in that Iowa game.
If Tim asked if IU gets a big lead in the first half, Penix looks good. Should Coach Allen get Tuttle in the game in the second half and rest Penix for Cincinnati? Well, I'm going to say no. They're going to run him through the third quarter because there's no way he doesn't need the reps, the game reps. There's a fine line between getting him out and protecting him, but he's not to the point to where he needs the reps more than that fear. He's not going to be playing the fourth quarter if it's a game that's in hand, but he needs the reps. We got to take a quick break. We got plenty more to talk about. We'll talk more football as well. But Todd Leary is going to come up next to join us. Looking forward to that. We got to take a break. Coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by the fine folks at Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, located right on Liberty Drive. AndyMooreHonda.com. You can go right there, order your Honda, have it ready and waiting for you when they come in. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans. I can't believe it said morning earlier.
I gotta run. I'll be right back.
Yes.
Does Todd know the links in his email? Like, does he just know that stuff regarding text and say, "Hey, links"?
I would always text, just double check because he's driving. He needed a heads up. I think.
Let me give him a text then.
Oh, South Bend.
Todd Leary, baby. Talking about that Indiana schedule.
All right. I'll just send him a text. Oh, he just emailed me. He said, "What time exactly do you need me?" Well, I just told him on the phone that he could join whenever he's ready. So,
yeah, pull over.
Oh. He said, "What time do you need me to call exactly?" I'll just say, "Right now, if you're ready."
Idaho,
Idaho.
College football. Oh, yeah. Hey, Kevin, are you going out to the North-South game tonight?
No.
You're not?
Why would I go?
Well, it should be a pretty good game. The quarterback for Bloomington North is the grandson of Kit Klingelhoff for the longtime SID at IU. Okay. And then you've got the South connections and the
look at his name. Look what he made his name on here.
I saw that as soon as he came on. That's freaking hilarious. Yeah. Oh my God, that is fucking funny.
No, I already did my Dylan McCullough story, so I'm fine.
Todd Lasso. I love that. That is hilarious. He can't hear us. Yeah, he can.
Mr. Positive. Mr. Positive.
Obviously, you've watched that. Have you watched that? No. Have you watched? So you've watched that?
I love it. It's the greatest show in history.
He cracks me up.
Where you driving?
Me too. Down to Alabama.
Alabama. A lot of
Alabama.
A lot of Southern folks, football fans.
All right,
you going to see an Alabama football
All right,
game?
brother.
I'm going to pull over here.
Much more. Sam's Place in Broad Ripple has wings, tender steaks, and seafood. Sam's Ale House in Carmel and on 86th Street in Indy have a long list of craft beers and all of the right foods to go with. Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back on this Friday, and now we're joined by Todd Lasso, special guest, Todd Leary Lasso. How's it going, man? Having a little technical. Now he's having a technical issue, but of course, with Todd Lasso, how could it not be? It would be, but he'll get that straightened out. Looking forward to that. It's funny, that cracked me up. Todd Lasso. I've got to get caught up on my episodes of Ted Lasso.
So you have Apple TV?
I have. I watched the show. Yes.
Okay. You have a way to watch a show?
Yes.
Okay.
Do not?
No.
Have you? So you have not seen it?
I have not seen it. So, but I've heard about it. I've heard that he's a lot like Tom Allen. He's a very positive guy, very energetic. You know.
No, he's not He's not energetic like Tom Allen. Tom Allen is here. This guy is so positive.
Yeah.
He's over the top positive.
Yep.
Like crazy. Like nobody could keep that up.
I heard that one line where he said, life in the moment is a gift. That's why they call it the present. That's a good line.
Oh, it was. Yeah. Oh, there are some great, see, that's the thing. There are some great nuggets in there. Yeah. Hey, while we're waiting for Todd Lasso, there's a couple comments here that asking again, and Tim was one of those, said Tuttle could use some real game experience in case Penix gets hurt again. He's got real game experience. He played all last year, and you have to pick your poison. You can't have your cake and eat it too. So you got to go with one or the other, and so that's how that's going to be. Hello, Todd Lasso. How are you doing, sir? He's jumping back in. See, Mike Niehaus is on his way up to.
I'm great. How are you?
South Bend. We're doing fine. Kevin Brockway is with us. We're just talking about Indiana and the football, man. I know you watched that game last week, probably. That was a huge letdown.
Yeah, the first 14 seconds were pretty good. Then after that, it was kind of downhill from there. But yeah, I think to put it nicely, everyone needs to play better.
Yes,
probably starting with the quarterback position.
Yep,
needs to play a lot better.
It's like everything. It starts at the top and goes down. And if the top is not leading and the top is not doing their job, you've already have a break in the chain. And that's what they have going right now. And not that he can't get that back around. It was the first game, but it's definitely can become a problem. Luckily, they have a game this week, as you would say, their get-right game. Idaho should absolutely be a get-right game for Michael Penix to show that he's shaking that stuff off. And I mentioned this earlier, talking to Rick Bozich the other day. He said, you're coming back from 2 ACLs. He's talked to a lot of people about it. And you have to get past the mental part of trusting your body now again while out making these plays. And I don't know that he's there.
Yeah, I mean, just remembering back from an athlete's perspective, when you've got an injury and all that, I think you feel your way through it more in practice than what people give it credit for. Once the game starts, I mean, the game is the game. If you're out there, if he's truly out there, and I don't think that he is, but I don't think most athletes that come back from an injury do, but you're not out there thinking about your injury or thinking about, your limitations now because of the injury. I mean, you're out there, there's enough going on. Heck, just watching Tom Brady last night, at 44 years old, the level of focus that guy has is just incredible. And then you take, if you want to put that into perspective with Michael Penix, then, he can't possibly be thinking about his injuries. He's got way too much to focus on and way too much to worry about and do out there. And I don't think that he is. I mean, I hope it's just a situation of, if I think back on, and I'm not going to speak for all fans. I mean, I'm just speaking as a football fan in general, but for an IU football fan to look back on Michael Penix's, highlight plays of his career, they involve him using his legs. And I mean, I rushed for 7 more yards last Saturday than he did. And so that's not the Michael Penix that's going to win games for Indiana.
Well, yeah, that dual threat ability that he's had, but you got to wonder even if he's under marching orders, Todd, not to necessarily do that because of the injury history. I think that's the other aspect of it too. I mean, the one time he did scramble in that Maryland game last year is, when he, pulled up and wasn't even hit. I mean, it was decelerating on the sideline. He popped it.
Yeah, and I'm truly not trying to. I don't know what your answer is going to be, but let me ask you this: if you've got one play that needs to take place, and you need to throw a 12-yard pass, whether that's an out pattern or something across the middle, whatever it's going to be, and Indiana needs to throw a 12-yard pass, would you pick Jack Tuttle or Michael Penix to throw that pass? Just one pass. That's all there is. That's the only play that you need done. I mean, in my opinion, I'd pick Jack Tuttle to throw that pass. And so if your marching orders from a coaching perspective are to tell him, which I'm not saying that we're speculating, but if he had marching orders to not run the ball very much, then I'm not sure he's the quarterback that should be on the field.
Well, Penix still has pretty elite arm talent, though, Todd. He's a really good thrower.
He didn't last Saturday. He didn't last Saturday. His arm talent was well below average.
He seems to have a tendency of starting slow in the first game. He'll get the opportunity to show this week if he's back or not. But I think that I said earlier that progress has to be shown this week. I mean, you have to see some serious progress with the entire offense.
For sure.
Because next Saturday, buddy, that's going to be they got some serious talent coming in next Saturday.
Yeah. And I really hope, and I'm not selling Michael Penix. Like, I'm not all of a sudden off the bandwagon. I'm saying, like, exactly what you just mentioned. This week has to be a get comfortable, get back in rhythm kind of week for him and the whole offense. Because if you look at it from the first game, okay, let's not call it jitters, but first game excitement, enthusiasm, whatever it is. Well, what's it going to be like next week? Because next week you're going to see a situation at Memorial Stadium that none of these guys have ever seen before. A sold out stadium with 99% Indiana Hoosier fans. It's going to be an excitement level that they're going to have to tamp themselves down on that one to not overthrow people by 10 yards on a regular basis.
I know football was not a big deal back when you were in school, but they were having a successful run at that time, kind of on the end, I guess, of a successful run. I'm still in it with Bill Mallory. But what are your memories of the IU football program at that time when they were having that bit of success?
Yeah, I mean, I just remember Coach Mallory more than anything. I mean, I remember, that guy was a master motivator. I mean, he made me want to play football, and he's just one of those people that you want to get out there and play for. Very, very similar to Tom Allen. Tom Allen is probably like 2.0 version of Bill Mallory. I mean, he's got more enthusiasm than anyone I've ever seen. He makes Ted Lasso look like he's on depressants. But it's just one of those situations that that team back then, we were so forward the games. Just hands like in today's world, I can't even imagine it's going to be like. It'll be fun. Everyone's excited to get back. I'm just super like in that Cincinnati game when it's a sold stairs out. Let's put it that way.
Looking forward as well. Basketball coming around too. Indiana out on the coaching staff, out on the recruiting trail right now, back out the final evaluation period. They just offered five-star Kwame Evans. They've been recruiting at a very, very high, or attempting to recruit at a very, very high level. And it's starting to pay dividends. You've got Tamar Bates that came in. You've got a commitment from places like Montverde Academy. And now you've got teammates of those guys. So that trickle-down effect of that high-level talent is really starting to have an effect for Indiana, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question about it's having an effect. I mean, it is the excitement level for basketball is off the charts. This coaching staff has accomplished things that I'm pretty sure Scott Dolson and everyone wasn't even sure that they could accomplish at this point. And I think, I think it's raised the expectation level. I think that they are now, I know my expectation level is different, whether it should be or shouldn't be. I just can tell you that it is. And to bring in this kind of talent, to get this many people interested, this many kids interested in coming to play for Mike Woodson, I look at it and I'm like, I almost hate that he spent so many years in the NBA, because I think college basketball, and especially Indiana, has missed out on having him for quite a while. But that's the reality of it, and we just have to be thankful that we have him here right now, because he certainly is doing a fantastic job.
What are your thoughts about the schedule, and particularly the non-conference portion? You got 4 top 100 teams, and then you got 7 teams that are sub 200 in KenPom. Is that a good balance for this team coming into a first year with a new coach, or will that get them ready for the Big Ten, or what are your thoughts?
They need to be on the floor playing. Like the opponents at the beginning of the year, I really don't see that big of a fact. Guys are playing in a game as much as possible. I think I like the 2 early Big Ten games. I like that setup. I mean, you get a good one with Nebraska at home, you should probably win. You go on the road to Wisconsin. I mean, in December. That's a good test for where this team will be. They'll have a good number of games under their belt at that point. Things have really fallen into place for this team, to have a very successful season. Now, what's a very successful season in your guys' opinion? I mean, is making the NCAA tournament a successful season? Probably. I mean, I think we would all have accepted that a while back, but I think they could easily set the bar even higher for themselves, especially as the Big Ten season moves on.
Well, yeah, I think that's interesting, because 2 years ago they played a lighter non-conference schedule and they would have made it if not for COVID. Last year they played a tougher non-conference schedule. They finished 12-15 and Archie gets fired. So it's kind of interesting. I know there's a guy up north that likes to scream about the non-conference schedule, but sometimes it's probably better to ease your way in rather than hammer your team early.
And with, especially of all years this year. I mean, we probably won't be saying that. 3 years from now, we'll want the toughest schedule in the world. This season, I don't think we'll scream that this year.
Yeah, I think that it's best, just like not having had Kentucky on the schedule for the last few years. It's probably been a benefit, as much as I hate to say that. It's been a benefit because Indiana's teams were not up to that level, and it probably wouldn't have been as fun for fans. But now that's a game that needs to get back on the schedule ASAP, and that needs to happen. It's just a game that should be played for college basketball fans. It's just one of those games that there's no reason for it not to be played.
Yeah, I mean, it's we'll all sit here and argue, when they talk about, what are the best rivalries in basketball. And I know a lot of people want to say it's Indiana-Purdue, a lot of Indiana fans. It's that big a deal to us. But I can tell you as a player, the Kentucky game and, under Coach Knight's, tutelage, the Kentucky game was a bigger game to him. I can assure you of that. And, that was kind of ingrained in us, and that's what it became. It's going to be hard to say. It's hard to rival Duke and North Carolina if this is a game that doesn't happen every year. And I know it's easier for them because they're in conference and they have to play each other. But Indiana, Kentucky is exactly what you said, Jim. It's a game that should be played every year, no matter what, no matter schedules, no matter what's going on. That's a game that should be played every year.
Should it be played on campus, or should it? Would you settle for a neutral game? Because that's a screaming issue with Calipari is that he doesn't want to play at Assembly Hall.
I would prefer it to be a neutral. I'd prefer it to be a neutral game. I wouldn't care if they played it in the same place all the time. The Yum Center in Louisville is neutral enough. It doesn't need to go back and forth to Indianapolis or back down to Louisville for me. I mean, I'd be happy if they played it every year at the Yum Center. That'd be great. I mean, I don't think that Kentucky would agree to play it in Indianapolis every year. Playing it every year at the Yum Center, I'm in.
Looking forward to it, man, and looking forward to seeing you a little bit more as the basketball season rolls around. You going to make it to the game tomorrow? Great. Looking forward to seeing him. Todd, Leary, brought to you by Reynolds. You're brought to you by the fine folks at Reynolds Family Dentistry, Dr. J, who you're very familiar with. If you're down in the Sellersburg area, get down and see Dr. J, our good friend. But looking forward to seeing and talking to Todd more as the basketball season rolls around. We'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether you're looking for
so I missed this question.
Sorry, I don't know what happened.
That's all right. Oh, you were freezing. That's all right. Here's a question. Hi, this is Bruce. I'm back. I'm curious, and this is totally irrelevant, but I wonder what Coach Knight takes of this coaching staff and Mike Woodson and being the head coach. He's all well, Bruce, he is all for that. He is. We'll talk about that. He's very supportive. They've loves it. But thanks, Bruce,
I'm
for
not allowed
following
to
us.
be an
We'll
asshole when we're not on the air, are we?
No, because they can hear us.
We're on the air on YouTube, but we're off the radio air.
I got you.
Where are you today? Oh, it's right in Alabama.
I'll say
you gonna be in for the game? You gonna make it in for the game?
Alabama. Well, I'm on my way. Yes.
Oh, you're on your way back.
I'll be back at 6:00 tonight. Yeah.
Beautiful.
No, I'm on my way there, but I'll be back tonight.
Gotcha. Well, cool, man. All right. Well, be safe. Appreciate you. We'll talk to you. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Coach Knight.
Yeah, I'll get that question up when we come back.
Good news is the part that I was going to clip didn't have many issues with the football stuff.
Good.
But the audio, I'll just go in after the fact and look for all the blanks and fill it in.
Okay. See, 940. There's nothing here, right?
Yeah, you don't have a guess. Do you want me to ask? Jim Reamer's technically not coming on right now, but he said if you want him, I can have him. When do you want him?
When is Zach on 1020?
1040.
And so do we have nothing until 1040?
Currently, yes.
Just bring him on at 10.
Okay. When do you want him?
Tell him it's for the 10 to 10:20 segment.
Okay.
Please and thank you.
Do you want to do trivia at 10:20 then?
Do you already have this question?
I will get one. I just want to know when you want to do it.
Well, you better get it now and tell me privately what it is, because I want to make sure it's something that's.
I will text you the question. But you want something from earlier this week, right? That's what you've been
something
saying.
from the show. Something from the show.
All right. I'm trying to think of. I'll try to think of something. All right, we're coming back. We got 10 seconds.
$270 a month. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back. It is Friday, baby, on a short week. I love the short weeks. Got here like that. Beautiful weather, Kevin. It's fall football weather, man.
Wasn't a short week for us, though. We had to work on Labor Day, press conferences, and
Well, it's not. Yes, I told somebody last night. I said, dude, I'm going to be working 6 or 7 days a week, every week, from now until April. It's just how it is. And but yeah, there are no holidays in sports, unfortunately. There are no weekends off.
you got the DNR. That's good, yeah.
Bruce. Some people call me Maurice. Hey, no, this is Bruce. I'm back, curious, and he's asking what Coach Knight's take on the coaching staff of Mike Woodson being the head coach. Well, it's been he's very, very supportive of Mike Woodson being the head coach. Now, he does not know the assistants and whatnot, I don't think, but very, very supportive of what they're doing there. But thank you, Bruce. Great to see you again. Let's see. It's not there are worse things in life. I can assure you. I'm not complaining, but I guess it sounded like I was complaining, but didn't it? Well, it's not as easy as it sounds. But yeah, so where were we? North-South game tonight, by the way. High school games. Get out and see a high school football game tonight. Man, what a great night to go see a game. We'll pull up some of those in a second. Whether you're, like I said, you're in Evansville, Southern Indiana, down by Clark, Floyd County, New Albany, Jeffersonville, Floyd Central area. Indianapolis, of course, is going to have some gigantic games. The Bloomington North, Bloomington South game is tonight. A little bit of some storylines there. Kit Klingelhofer's grandson is the quarterback for North. Kit is the longtime former SID, sports information director at IU under Knight, and during all those years, Bill Mallory. So and you got the McCullough kids on the other side. Just all kinds of great things going on tonight, man.
Yeah, Deshaun McCullough is, if you're an Indiana football fan and you want a glimpse of the future, Deshaun McCullough is definitely worth the price of admission. I wrote about him last week, a couple of weeks ago. Got to see him against Martinsville. The kid's a beast. He is and they line him up a wide receiver too, which is interesting. They just throw jump balls to him, because 6'5", 260, huge wingspan. Future at that bull position at Indiana. He'll be a got to watch. And we'll see about, it's always a rivalry game. You never know what's going to happen. And his younger brother too, Dave McCullough, is also committed to Indiana, another guy that running back, defensive back, class of 2023. So you got both brothers there playing for Bloomington South that are going to be both future Hoosiers.
So that's interesting to see. And you speak of that bowl position. That's something that's still a thing in progress with that Indiana defense. That was probably one of the small issues that they had not small issues, but one of the issues they had last week.
Well, getting the pass rush. I mean, Alfred Bryant, we talked to him this week. Is he a dynamic guy? I mean, Handy, I think, will be the guy that has that athleticism, I think, as he continues to learn the defense, which will be the guy. But, like we said before, I mean, really the biggest issue on the defense was lining up wrong on that first series. And which gets back to the point, too, crowds and the impact crowds can have. I'm sure it was a communication issue, and I'm sure it's because 70,000 people in that stadium in Kinnick, it was pretty loud. And I would say that that's a message to Indiana fans, too, that, hey, look, you guys come out, you support your team, you can impact the game in a lot of ways. If you get to the stadium and stay in the stadium and keep it packed and stay loud, you can have a difference in a game. You can cause a communication problem.
Oh, I guarantee you that crowd had to have an impact last week. I mean, 70,000 fervent fans. I wasn't on the field during the game, obviously, in the press box, but I had a couple of guys tell me it got really loud at times. And so not that that's something you have to deal with. So it's not like you got a freshman back there. You don't. But Indiana, that's an advantage Indiana doesn't have a lot of the times, most of the time that they're at home. And it has an impact because you take a marginal team, but that has great crowd support, they're going to win a few extra games just because of that. You take a marginal team that has poor crowd support, probably going to lose a few games that they shouldn't have lost had they had that extra kick. It's a weird little deal. It's just that little bit that just kicks you over.
Well, we see it on the basketball side too in Assembly, when Assembly's really rocking too, how, opposing teams can come in and it's just a really hard place to play because the fans are so loud. And obviously that's an enclosed space, but can they get there in football? I think that's the big question. Can they get to the point where, 50,000 people is different than 70 and 100, but it still can be pretty loud, if you really fill it up. And now that stadium is enclosed too, you could really, make a little bit of a factor there if everyone comes out and supports his team. And let's face it, last week notwithstanding, but what they've done the last 2 years under Tom Allen, and this year with, fans being allowed back, you should go out there and support this team.
Absolutely. Tailgating should be, you've got a 7:30 game this week. Yeah. So this should be the zenith of tailgating for this year. Not, withstanding the Ohio State game, et cetera. But as far as the amount of time, you've got all day. You've got all day to look forward to what should absolutely be a win for that team. Now that creates a different problem, though, Kevin. A game that if people are out tailgating all day, the odds are that a lot of them, some of them, not making it to the stadium for other reasons are a very good possibility.
Yeah, and I think that's it. I was talking with John about that before the show. It's kind of like in the Idaho game, or maybe you see a situation where you get out to if you get out to a good start at halftime, they kind of go in for the first half and come out for the second half. I think Cincinnati, it being a noon game, I think it's going to be better because people are going to be jazzed up. They'll get the tailgate a little bit before the game, then they'll go in there. Hopefully it's a good competitive game, and they'll stay for all four quarters, especially if the crowd is needed. And then after the game, you can tailgate and celebrate if you get a win. So I think that's interesting. The start time, I think, plays a factor into that as well.
Yeah, something to note, too, for next Saturday's Cincinnati game that was scheduled to be a noon game, that is now going to be a 3 p.m. game, and it's going to be on either ESPN or ABC.
How about that? Well, I did not.
Did you not get that notification?
Did not get that notification. When did that come out?
Well, I guess it hasn't officially came out. I got it on the schedule thing. I wish I could find that now. I guess I better wait for the official announcement to come out before I say that. So I didn't just say that.
Let me check. Maybe I'll check the IU website and see.
Yeah, because I think it was a schedule. It was like a calendar thing that said a change. So I'm thinking that game has been changed to 3.
Wow, that's interesting. I wonder if obviously the loss to Iowa maybe impacted that because they were
no. This is a bump up. It's getting moved to either ESPN or ABC.
Well, no, it's going to be ESPN or ABC at noon, regardless. So maybe they shifted another game around.
But why would 3:30? 3:30 is not a better time,
or 3 is a better time. The website says it's still noon, Jim. So
yeah, I think that's
ABC or ESPN, but maybe they're going to have it at 3 on ESPN. But 3:30 is more of a prime television window than 3, but it's still similar.
No, it's not. I didn't say 3. It's 3:30. It would be a 3:30 game.
I thought you said 3. Yeah.
Well, if I said it, I meant the 3:30 game.
You meant 3:30. Okay. Yeah.
But that was a notification that I got on a calendar where I'm locked into the settings. But the official, there's been nothing official, so I better wait on that to make sure that that's actually accurate. So don't plan on that being true yet until we can confirm that. But so looking forward to that. Looking forward to the weekend. But I don't get to do a lot of tailgating, obviously, because getting ready for the games and everything. But it's good to see that going on. Last week at Iowa, I went out and went around and talking to some fans. And I'll do that again this week. Looking forward to that. And don't forget, we have 4 tickets to give away. That at the end of this show, we'll have a question, and you will simply have to answer me on Twitter. I mean, you have to follow me on Twitter is all you need, at Jim Coyle ISB. But we'll get to that. What is the most important thing that Michael Penix has to do this week? Besides win?
Accuracy. I kind of disagree with Todd about the whole mobility thing. I think that's out the window. I mean, it was out the window last year, and he was fine. He didn't scramble much last year. And he had a great season. He was 14 and 4 picks. It's just the accuracy. And, a part of that is getting in sync with your receivers too. He's still, he was still throwing the ball with good zip last week also. I don't think the arm strength was the issue, but ask DJ Matthews, he couldn't bring in that ball because it was thrown too hard. And I think that's part of the issue too. And, the more I looked at that route on replay, there were some people that said, oh, he threw behind him and stuff. DJ Matthews could have caught that ball. Wasn't really that badly misthrown. I mean, it was just a bad luck thing where he couldn't handle the ball and it went off his hands. Second interception, all on Penix. Third interception, all on Penix. But that first interception, if you're DJ Matthews and you're a Division I receiver, you gotta make that catch.
And that first one was really – it hurt more because it came right after the score.
Yeah. So now you're 14-0. You're playing uphill the whole game. Yeah. And Nick Sheridan said too, the zone read also on the second play where he fumbled I think that really kind of set everything back also because, you go from 2nd and 5 to 3rd and 9, you're off schedule. And, I think that's the other thing too with Penix. It's kind of that mobility. Do you call that kind of play that early in the game where you put him in a situation where he's kind of booting like that? And I'm sure he was uncomfortable, and that might have contributed why he was fumbling the ball. So, and look, Sheridan took blame for that in the press conference on Monday. And
he didn't have much choice.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, hey, let's look at the last 3 games going back to last year. Wisconsin, 14 points. Ole Miss, 20 points. It's 6 points, and he had Jack Tuttle for those 2 games at quarterback too. So it's, you got to question some of the play calling too. I think the last couple of games as well. I think it's a combination of factors. The offensive line play also, I think, is a big factor. And I think having Luke Haggard back this week will help with that as well. And get a run game going too. 2.5 yards per carry, that can help Penix out too. Just get some, get something going in the run game a little bit. Stephen Carr, David Ellis will be back, so maybe you can get him on some perimeter runs as well. Tim Baldwin, who was, showed some promise last year, really didn't do much in that Iowa game either. So, get the run game going as well. And I think, the other thing too, 14-0, you're down early. You kind of abandon the run game a little bit because you're playing uphill.
Yeah, but getting those guys back for this game would be helpful because it's a game where they should be. Again, this should be like, I hate to call it, I hate to treat it less than another game, but let's be honest. This is not Ohio State. This is not Iowa. This is not Penn State. It's not Cincinnati. It's a get right game. It should be a get right game. It's exactly what it should be. Doesn't mean that's always how it works out, but this should be the opportunity for guys to get through their issues. And that includes coaches. Sheridan's got to get better at play calling at the right time, into situational play calls, defensive communication. I think they just need to tighten that up a little bit. That's all I think that was basically it with the defense. They're going to get tightened up. The defense is just good and strong. I mean, there's no reason I think that they're going to have a problem there, but you have to have an offense, as you saw last week. Your defense just can't do it all.
And Stephen Carr showed some signs in that game. I mean, 19 for 57, but they threw him some outside pitches, and he did run hard, and he ran hard between the tackles too, I thought. I mean, he did show me some things that he could be a decent running back too, and potentially even a big play running back. And in this game, facing a much softer defense, I'll be curious to see what he can do with some of his carries too, and can he be that home run guy that IU has been lacking in terms of the run game?
Yeah, that has been something that has affected the offense for the last few seasons. To be honest with you, it's not been a part of a valuable part of the offense since Jordan Howard, maybe. I mean, that's the last really good. I mean, running back with potential breakaway speed that's played. Of course, Tevin Coleman was a once in a lifetime kind of a find. He was just so much fun to watch because you never knew when he was just going to be gone. He led the country in everything. Runs over 80, 70, 60, 50. It was funny. I mean, he would just if you gave him a seam, boom, he was like a cannonball shot out of a cannon, obviously.
Well, trust me, I'm a Jets fan. I'm hoping he has something left in the tank because he's he and Dan Feeney, both two former IU guys, playing for the Jets.
I saw that, and then amazing is like, oh man, but it will be interesting to go up there because the Jets obviously haven't had the best of luck here of late.
Well, new quarterback Zach Wilson, and they're facing their old quarterback Sam Darnold week 1. I'm sure the NFL schedule up. Did you watch the Bucks Cowboys game last night?
No, I heard it in the background, but I was busy and I did not.
It was a classic game, unbelievable. Brady and Dak Prescott both on top of their game. You talk about a quarterback coming off of injury, and Dak Prescott coming off of injury looked terrific. I mean, was very impressive. And so it's not all, we might be overanalyzing this trusting a little bit. Maybe it was just bad luck. Maybe it was a game where, Penix, you have the ball go off his hands and it all goes downhill. I think we still need to have a few more weeks to see with Mike, is this really a problem? Or, can he, work his way through this?
Hey, we got a lot of games, football games tonight even we'll talk about when we come back. Let's see. I think we'll talk to Jim Reamer, try to get some basketball recruiting news in. Kansas Jayhawks, Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina, they're ranked 17th. I'm sorry. I can't buy that a Coastal Carolina football team could compete with Michigan State and mid-level SEC teams or mid-level Big Ten teams or mid-level Big 12 teams. I just cannot buy that they're competitive with those teams.
Well, yeah, I think it's, and I think some of the issue with the group of 5 teams, and look, Cincinnati is a group of 5 teams, so that'll be interesting next week. But, could they beat a Power 5 team once? Yeah, but could they do it on a week in, week out basis? I think that's the issue is that people always ask, is that when you play in a tougher, more physical conference, could you survive the grind of a 11, 12-week schedule if you're a team like Coastal Carolina? And should that impact you in the rankings or not, the fact that you're playing this softer conference schedule? But it tends to come out in a wash in December and January, although UCF did have that undefeated season and they declared themselves, I guess, mythical national champions. But all the SEC fans were kind of chirping about that as, oh yeah, they did beat Auburn in the bowl game, but could they have survived 12 weeks in the SEC? And I think that's the issue.
Yeah, no, they could not. Hey, let's see. It's time to take a break. Looking forward to that. Hey, don't forget, if you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Realty will get you taken care of. Remax Advanced Realty, you can get a hold of Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com, 317-298-0961. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans. What's up, Jim Reamer?
Not much. How are you guys?
Good.
I'm tired. I'm not going to lie.
No, that's good. It's been a weird week.
Well, it's just, it's been nonstop since the Iowa game.
You're more professional than we are. You have a microphone,
Yeah, well.
Hey, who are you calling we?
It's
got a mouse in your pocket?
I just haven't seen yours. Yeah, you don't put it on the screen.
No, I bought this probably even 3 years before I even started doing my own podcast. So it's kind of one of those things where I thought maybe I would use it with my phone or my iPad somewhere. Never got around to it.
Podcast microphone cost?
This was $250.
But you don't have to spend that much either, though.
Cheapest one for $20.
You don't, yeah.
But you gotta get what you pay for. You just gotta.
This one can plug directly into and back when I bought this was kind of a unique thing. You could plug it directly into your phone or your iPad and kind of broadcast from there. Or my intention was letting someone who writes for me or writes with me interview kids and let them, like players, and let them use it on their phones.
Jim Reamer, did you listen to me and Justin this week, or Dustin? I noticed you liked the tweet, or maybe you just liked the tweet.
I liked it just to support. I didn't get a chance to listen yet. I'm not a big college football fan. If that's what you're talking about, your separate podcast, right?
Yeah, it's college. It's Indiana football.
Okay.
And we talk Big Ten stuff too, because Dustin's an expert on the Big Ten, covering them with that and everything.
And Dustin's been on my podcast, and I watch the IU football games, but
Dustin Schutte? Are you talking about?
I meant
he's talking about Dustin Schutte.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, sorry, Dustin Schutte. Yeah, I should have been more specific. I forgot about Dustin DePiric.
Dustin Schutte, baby.
Dustin Schutte, baby.
He's a good man.
He's a good egg. You're a good egg, Noonan.
I've not met Kevin. Kevin, I'm Jim. Nice to meet you.
Hey, Jim.
Oh, hey. Kevin Brockway, CNHI Papers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And what's your background? You do
primarily basketball. A lot of coaching. I've hosted a website since 2004.
Okay, cool.
Rebranded it probably about 4 years ago.
All right.
You're a coach?
Yeah, travel.
Craft beer, all of the right foods to go with. Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Man, makes you want to dance. Welcome back on this Friday, TGIF. Kevin Brockway with us from CNHI Papers. Moving in from Tuesday to Friday this week, just a holiday switch around. Jim Reamer joining us now from Courtside, Indiana. How's it going, man?
Go well. We're starting to get closer to basketball season, so there's some stuff coming up next week, especially that we'll be going to, and maybe get a chance to talk about some players that Indiana's looking at.
Well, yesterday, obviously, the opening of fall evaluation period. Coaches out and around all over the place, looking at guys. Dane Fife was at La Muir, watching 2023 four-star point guard Jeremy Fears. Other schools that were there: Syracuse, Duke, and Notre Dame. Noah Clowney's Final Four programs: Alabama, Indiana, Virginia Tech, and Florida. All are expected to see him play. Yesterday, we're expected to see him play yesterday, I should say. Austin Parks, also from 2023, he is expected to have Indiana amongst other schools in this weekend to see him. He's got an IU offer from this summer. So there's just tons going on, man. Let's see. Indiana is Kwame Evans. You got an offer. He's expected to see him this week. He got the offer, I think it was Tuesday night that he got that. Mike Woodson is off to see 2023 Cathedral four-star Xavier Booker. I guarantee you he is I think that's probably a personal one for Mike Woodson, not for any reason other than he's a hell of a player. Jim, yeah, he's just
You do. Again, we've had this discussion. I'm not quite there yet, but
I'm high on him early.
But you do get a sense of priority from the staff as to who they're looking at, and a lot of people will try to make it who they watch the first day, who they watch. It certainly is whoever they watch within the first week, especially. They're either a priority or somebody they're truly trying to get a feel for, like what is this guy like in a workout environment, in a practice, and mainly in a practice environment. Because now even high school coaches have a little bit more, especially in Indiana, have a little bit more latitude on what they can do in the off season and provide a little bit more than, probably 6 or 7 years ago, that would just been an open gym, and like the school coach wouldn't have had any they would not have been permitted to really have a whole lot of instruction on the floor during this time of year. But that has changed recently, and in my opinion, it's changed for the better. It lets coaches get a little bit more working with their players, with their team in this instance, a lot like what college has done. But it also allows these guys to provide more structure for when college coaches come in, and it's not just some loose environment. So,
well, there's just tons going on. While they're trying to keep practice rolling as the season is about here that you mentioned, to have to get back out on the road, I would imagine every school goes through it and deals with it, but I would imagine this would be a different time that they would rather be doing this.
Well, yeah, but I don't know, sure, but when, it's after Labor Day. Yeah. So regardless of when a high school's calendar starts, or even an NCAA calendar started. I mean, Ohio State, I think, aren't they still on quarters, and they're not even in school yet, are they? There's some language that, in terms of when a college program, a Division I program, can start doing workouts, it is the first day of classes or September 15th, whichever comes first. So I remember for a while, I don't know if Ohio State's changed, but for a while there, Ohio State was at a disadvantage when that rule first became, or when the rules started to shift, when college coaches could work a little with their team a little bit sooner. But right now, each player gets 4 hours a week of sport work, of skill work, and a lot of schools will break that into 2 1-hour workouts, either individually or in small groups, and then they will have a 1-2 hour practice in a given week. That's what a lot of teams do. I don't know what IU structure is, but that's what a lot of guys do.
I remember I used to cover Florida, and that was very similar. That's what they did with they would do the 2 hour practices and stuff.
And it used to be, when it first changed, it used to be 2 hours. And this was, and I do, because of where I live, I spent a lot of time at Butler watching their stuff. And they would do 2 30-minute workouts and then an hour practice. And then those guys would be able to come and go in their, what they would call their practice facility now, which back then would have just been called the West Gym. Those guys had a lot of access in there, and they would go in and basically do some individual stuff together. So,
what are your thoughts about the talent level in the state? Where is it now? I know Archie and the previous administration made a big push of recruiting in state, and obviously got Trace Jackson Davis and Romeo Langford. Where is it maybe now compared to 3 or 4 or 5 years ago.
Well, I think look, 2022 is pretty top heavy. I don't know how deep it is. 2023 is probably the flip. It's very deep. I'm not sure how top heavy it is. That's obviously something like that is definitely a matter of opinion, but there have been some stretches where there's been a lot of really good players come through the state, and I'm sure I can miss some, but it's not been the kind of guys that you can completely bankroll a class on by just sticking in the state of Indiana, especially, with competition from Purdue. Butler's now a high major program. So you've got those types of obstacles that didn't used to be in the way, especially the Butler element to it. But this, and 2022, with the exception of Leland Walker, who was transferred out of state to a prep school, is pretty picked over from a high major perspective. The 2023 class, there's still, in my mind, some proving to do. And I still think there's a couple of under the radar guys that have a chance to sneak into that level.
This time of year, I guess it's not any different than the summertime, but the kids they're in school now. Does that change how they prepare, change how the coaches see them? Because it's a different environment, team structure. You've gone from an AAU structure to a high school structure, which they're different, because on the AAU team, you're probably one of guys that are at your level. On the high school team, you may be the guy. So it changes your role a lot and how you're seen.
The structure element too is vital. That's why, as much as I believe the AAU season is where most of these guys start their recruiting or get a jump start to their recruiting, it still has to be funneled through the schools, because the schools obviously provide the academic information. The schools provide teachers that work with these kids on a daily basis to get some input as to what type of student he is, what type of person he is in the classroom. A good college coach will talk to a player's teachers to get a feel for what they're like. And then you also have the structure of the school practice and the ability to get into, I can't tell people, I'm as big of a Carmel homer as it is. And as much as, colleges will call me about Carmel kids, I can't get them in the school. They have to go talk to Coach Osborne, and everything at that point has to be run through him. And that's the way it should be, and that's why, like earlier, Jim, you asked the question of, is there a better, college coaches would probably rather be with their team right now, but there aren't a whole lot of better times a year to see a kid that you like and get a feel for what he's like in a workout environment than this time of year. And answer a question Kevin asked me about my background, a little bit about my background when we were all, before we got on the air here. When I first started coaching back in the early to mid 90s, college coaches could come to our AAU practices. And that's how I got to know a guy like Coach Felling, and how I got to know a guy like Coach Dockage, because those guys could come. And Felling would come up to Carmel every now. One year I was with a program called Bloomington Red, and one year we practiced at Bloomington South, and Coach Knight came. And that was nerve-wracking for me as a big IU fan, and certainly a big Bob Knight fan. And that was as much of an honor as it was nerve-wracking. And he made some pretty stern evaluations of some kids and shared them damn near on the spot. As soon as practice was over, about what he thought about this kid, that kid. He was looking at 3 guys, and a couple of them didn't make the cut after that practice, and I kind of felt bad for it. But now the only element college coaches get a chance to see kids practice and truly prepare is during this time of year when they're working with their school coaches, and that's, to me, that's why it's a vital time of year.
You brought up Leland Walker earlier, and it's kind of interesting because we watched him in the Indiana All-Star game in June up in Brownsburg, and he looked like the best player on the court. He was terrific. Yeah. He's 5'11". Are coaches too obsessed with size when it comes to backcourt? I've seen plenty of. Billy Donovan at Florida used to love small guards, and he won a national championship with Torian Green at 6'1" and Lee Humphrey at 6'2".
Well, but see, 6'1", 6'2",
big difference between that and 5'11".
There is a big difference, especially the 6'2". And here's the other thing too, Kevin, is is sometimes it is an issue of length and wingspan and whether you're a plus or a minus or a neutral. And they look at wingspan as much as they do height. And look, Leland has been viewed as small, and I think that's fair. His jump shot had been viewed as inconsistent up to a point. That has changed, in my opinion. When I saw him play in the spring, which I tried to get a chance to do quite a bit, and definitely when I saw him play in June with still North Central playing in the league up here at Westfield at Grand Park, their school team league, his jump shot had become extremely fluid compared to what I saw during the school year. I think the last time I saw him play a school game was early January. So I went, nearly 4 months in between watching him play. And his jump shot looked vastly different between those two times and looked even a little bit better in June than what I saw in early or mid-April. So, I think the size is an issue because, but then also if the shooting isn't there, that's sort of two strikes against you, even though you're, in his case, just hyper athletic. His feel for the game has improved. That he made that leap going into his sophomore year. I thought his command of possessions and command of the ball was a lot better than when he was as a freshman, which makes sense. But some guys don't get that until they get to college. I thought he had it pretty early, but I think it was the combination of size and jump shot. And look, some coaches like bigger guards. Some coaches don't care as much. Woody, coming from the NBA, I could see him thinking, okay, will Leland Walker, will they scout that out in a scouting report? I know Coach Miller, Archie wasn't recruiting him as heavily as what a couple of his assistants wanted. Not even remotely close as what a couple of his assistants wanted. He wanted bigger
Archie
guards.
was such a great judge of talent, obviously.
Well, and which the irony is that Archie was definitely not a bigger guard, and Archie was definitely a successful point guard.
Not big on
high
much.
Major level. Huh? Yeah,
he wasn't big on much.
Right, but then that could be. But he's, it's still. Sometimes coaches will just make that decision. I want a bigger guard. Of course, sometimes too, Kevin. It also depends on who's back there with him. If you've got good size at the 2 and the 3, especially, you can get away with a smaller guard. But if you don't, then you're really putting yourself in a position where you can kind of get bullied in the backcourt. And
plus Woodson's a guy that wants to switch on defense too, and I'm sure that would create all sorts of matchup problems as well. Yeah,
he's trying to create a positionless team almost, and you can't. Yeah, you're right, Kevin. You can't. It's hard to have a 5'10", 5'11" guard if you get switched off onto a 6'8" wing, and that's very easily to have happen from a 1 and a 3.
And you can switch in tiers. You can create switching groups where 2, 3s, and 4s switch, or and the college kids are. Although anytime you do that, you do leave a lot more room for error. But college kids are smart enough to figure that out. We've done that at the summer level where we've switched 2 through 4 a lot, because we've got personnel to do that. But again, to Kevin's question with the size, look how much Yogi Ferrell struggled as a freshman against Syracuse's zone, and how much length they're able to put out on the court with that team, especially, and even surrounded by a group of veterans. Indiana struggled because their point guard, who was, again, Yogi was a freshman, so you give him a little bit of extra leeway there. But when in the real time, when winning the game actually matters, his size became an issue because he couldn't get around that length.
I'm not great at predicting recruiting because it's just a guessing game. I'm not talking to these kids on a daily basis, but Caleb Glenn, the kid from Louisville, I think that Indiana, and I only mention this because it's just blowing my mind, but I think that Indiana may be in the best position for him. And I just never would have imagined a kid from Louisville, getting past Louisville and Kentucky both. But Kentucky is not real. I don't know that they were recruiting him at all, or the Harlan, and then Louisville is, but they've got issues, man. They've just got issues that have to catch up to them. They still are waiting to be punished for the FBI stuff. And now you've got other things that have happened. So your current coach is on a 6-game suspension. I can see parents at home going, son, that's only an hour and a half away. It's a hell of a school. Maybe you should go there, blah, 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 whatever. But the staff, I think that what is Louisville staff is a staff of dysfunction. You got one coach suing another. So I don't know how that's going to be. I'm not trying to pick on Louisville. It's just a fact. But I don't know how that's conducive to great recruiting. Who the hell wants to send their kid to that? I mean, this is a pattern that has gone on at this school through coaches, through administrations. And so that has got to catch up with them, I would imagine. But
I think Mac walked into a rough situation, basically. And
yeah, but your job is to clean that up.
True. But that's not
your job is to get in trouble is the first thing you don't do. And that's exactly what he's done.
But was Louisville willing to bottom out like Indiana did? That's, and was it necessary? I mean, look, Crean came in, everybody's under this this misperception that Crean came into an empty cupboard. No, Crean came in and emptied it. Yeah. He did. And people were fine with that, to the point where they forgot that he did that. And one of them was one of them was a kid that played for me, and I didn't blink one bit from a fan perspective. I felt bad for the kid. But to a point, you make your own circumstances. I don't know that Matt goes into that situation at Louisville and decides to do that. Now, it doesn't excuse anything else that's happened, and the Godino thing with him is just strange because they have history before Louisville. I mean, good history before Louisville, and it's got a couple of friends of mine and the basketball friends that used to work with Godino, and everybody's just like either acting confused or totally confused or just basically just soft-handing it and not really wanting to talk too much about it other than it's just bizarre.
But I think that's to Indiana's benefit.
Yeah. Absolutely.
On this, especially a kid from Louisville Male High School. It's one of the larger schools, public schools. It's probably maybe the largest public school in Louisville. I'm not sure about that, but it is one of the more successful athletic programs down in that area. So that's a big get.
Some families too don't mind their kid going away a little bit. Maybe he wants to get out, just a little bit, go far enough away from home that you're not home, but close enough that your family can come watch and maybe, although I would argue this side of it, close enough that you can still get home pretty easily. I think that sounds good the first maybe month of school, but then after that, you're pretty indoctrinated to your school culture, your campus culture, but at least without, pre-COVID and hopefully after COVID. But
also add, and again, I'm not picking on Louisville or Chris Mack, but he doesn't have a record for sending guys to the league and developing talent, developing big guys, he doesn't have that reputation yet, really. You've got Mike Woodson here. You've got all that's Thad Mata and all this staff in Indiana's presenting. That's a big difference to me. I know that people are going to say, well, you're looking at it like a homer. No, I don't. I just look at it what it is. And there's a weighted difference there, I think, in my opinion.
Well, and, look, Louisville obviously has produced its share of NBA players, and Xavier had a history of putting guys through into the league that maybe were a little bit unsung, and now not all of them were as successful as some of the really good forwards they had go through there. But, even a guy like Edmund Sumner is a guy that kind of came out of nowhere, and they were able to develop. And even though he just tore his Achilles for the Pacers, he's been a guy that's been able to stick. And they've had some, I think it goes back to what you said, more of the dysfunction that's going on there than it has anything to do with Mac's coaching. I think he would be able to put into words the types of guys they've had come through there and during his time even at Xavier. But, but the other factor too is sometimes I do look at it from the standpoint, some kids are a little bit better or a little bit even more comfortable sometimes even going a little bit farther from home than just staying right there in their backyard.
Well, we'll get to see how it all works out. Plenty of guys getting looked at this weekend. Brother, I cannot thank you enough. I hope you have a great weekend. What do you got any big plans?
Me or Kevin?
You.
Not this weekend. Nope. Next week, start to get back in the gym next week. This weekend is one final week of relaxation. And I'm going to take full advantage of it. So
relaxation. What is this thing you speak of? Oh man, Jim Reamer brought to you by the great folks at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. If you're down in the Clarksville area, Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. Jimbo, thanks, brother. We'll look forward to seeing you next week, probably sooner rather than later, since without the holiday switcheroo.
Yep, appreciate it. See you Monday, probably.
You betcha. Hey, we're back with more Indiana Sports Beat. Zach Osterman's going to join us soon. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether you're looking for...
That's exactly what I'm going to do when I get done. I'm going to go and I'm going to lay down for like 10 minutes.
10?
I just need just 10 minutes, man.
Kevin, are you up here at the Carmel office?
No,
No,
he's
I
in
am
Bloomington.
No, I'm in
Bloomington?
I'm in Bloomington. I'm based in Bloomington.
What do you call it?
Okay.
Hey, other than
Just
Caleb Glenn, who else did y'all talk about a lot during that? I'm just putting together.
Xavier Booker and
Xavier Booker, Jeremy Fears.
Okay. Just wanted to know. I wasn't halfway paying
They have
attention.
a CHI office in Carmel or no?
yeah, it's around the corner from where I live. I mean, I can probably, if you knock down a couple buildings, I probably could hit it with a
I
3-wood.
never realized that. The only
Kevin
thing
did not know this.
I've gone to Anderson for my like I said, that's where I went to pick up my computer. I've never been to Kokomo and I've never been to Terre Haute. So
Aruba, Jamaica.
I mean, it's in
I
a.
want to take you to Aruba.
They're leasing the space. It's not like their own building.
Pretty
I think.
mama.
it's not their own building. Yeah.
Yeah, it's neat. It's good. It's in a good spot. I mean, I don't know. I just was curious if you were like right around the corner, then meet for lunch someday or something.
Oh yeah, no. Well, no, I like Carmel. I'll come up anyway. Everything's better in Carmel.
Yeah,
He likes
it's
caramel
72
apples.
72 and sunny every day up here. That's what I tell people.
Reamer, I'm gonna go ahead and remove you because
That's cool. All right, guys. I'll see you. Thanks.
Thanks, Jim.
Got to get around those fucking roundabouts.
Watch with what you're. I mean, I know we're in break for radio, but still watch what you're saying for the YouTube still.
Damn it.
Did you see my hat, Jim? What it says?
I cannot read that, brother.
You can't read it. It's that old. Remember that old Bud Light commercial? I love you, man, from 1990.
Oh yeah.
Jim,
Well, it looks like you
get this segment.
What?
Are we doing trivia this segment? The
It's
question.
not trivia. It's not trivia. It's
Well, it's a trivia
I hate-
question.
no, it's not.
Yeah.
I hate to call it that. It sounds. I don't know, but giveaway. That sounds better than the trivia. I hate using the word trivia.
How about ask him the last quarterback?
We've got the
You can't say it. Yeah, we've got the question. You can't say it now because then it gives people a heads up.
All right. So Zach's coming on now or
No, he's at 10:20, 40.
10:40. Okay,
But-
'cause he's coming on soon. So
All right.
do this
Well,
away now.
That's called a tease, Kevin.
tease.
Okay.
Hey,
We're
Big 12 extended invitations.
Yeah, that was like a week ago.
Honda
Cincinnati
dealer.
and
Come see us at the all new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
CBS Sportsline reported like a week ago that was going to happen.
This segment is brought to you by Sam's Family
Well,
of
it has happened.
Fresh, local, family.
BYU, yeah. What?
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Oh, welcome back. Sorry about that. Talking over the spot there. Kevin Brockway joining us from CNHI Papers. Movement in the conference realignment. It's been talked about, but now it has happened. The Big 12 Conference Board of Directors this morning extended invitations to Brigham Young, Central Florida, Cincinnati, and Houston to join the Big 12 Conference. So there's two of your teams that have been, trying to get recognition. Central Florida and Cincinnati won't have to worry about that anymore. They can now go join the Big 12 Conference.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. You get the Cincinnati TV market and you get the UCF TV market. Although, I'm always curious, like Orlando, UCF has gained popularity in Orlando, but is it still a Gator town in terms of television ratings? Is Cincinnati really an Ohio State town in terms of television ratings. Like how much television ratings are you really going to get? BYU obviously is still the most popular program in Utah, although Utah has made some gains. Certainly, beginning with Urban Meyer in the early 2000s, now they've become a more popular program. So Houston, probably overshadowed in Houston by Texas A&M in Texas. So,
hey, Houston,
good.
Houston is probably, I think Houston is athletically right now the most solid of that group. I mean, you've got Kelvin Sampson in the basketball program. The football program has had a good run of success up and down over the years. So, and that's probably going to be good for Houston. I mean, that's a program that is a move for Houston that could pay really big dividends, I think.
Yeah, Dana Holgerson is a little bit of a wild card. He's a very talented coach, but he had some issues at West Virginia, and now he's at Houston. And but he's a very good offensive mind. I'm sure it's interesting him coming back to the Big 12, right? He left West Virginia to go to Houston because Houston offered him more money, and now he's back in a major conference in the Big 12. So that'll be interesting to see what he does with the Houston football program. Basketball, obviously, Kelvin Sampson going to a Final Four last year. Now they get to be in a conference though with Kansas, right, and Baylor, and it'll be fascinating to see. But I think this signifies that the Big 12 is going to be okay. They're going to survive this. But can they put together a television network? Can they gain momentum of this? UCF will be very interesting on the football side as well to see if they can take a step forward and really take advantage of this as well.
Well, this is kind of funny because I said this a week or so ago. I think I tweeted it out, but now at season's end, there is a great possibility. It is a greater possibility that Central Florida is in the Power 5 and Scott Frost is not.
That's true. Yeah, be careful what you wish for. And how about also Josh Heupel leaving too? For Tennessee. And he's going to be in that meat grinder in the SEC as well. It'll be interesting to see, like, if he survives, because Tennessee lately has been a coaching graveyard, as we've seen with Butch Jones and Jeremy Pruitt, and that's become a really hard place to win due to a number of factors. And really any place in the SEC now is hard, other than Alabama, Georgia, Florida. I mean, Dan Mullen has gotten it to a certain level, but fans are wanting more.
So Central Florida becoming a Power 5 school, that's going to help that school immensely. I mean, you talk about, I can see them growing their stadium, doing things, because that's the kind of football if you have a team that their football program is what is driving their success. And that's what most schools make the most money on. Joining a Big 12 conference, that's going to be huge for them to get to play the games that they get to play, the football games. But then basketball wise, it's going to help out. You got Oklahoma and Kansas, like you said. Again, that's going to really benefit. Most of the time I'm looking at stuff, I'm like, I don't like this. That's good. But I think the Big 12 did a good job here. I think they did as good as they could do on this.
Yeah. But here's the thing too that's interesting. We brought this up early in the show: the week in, the week out grind of playing in a bigger conference. How does that impact UCF? I could even go back to my school, University of Miami. Right in 2003, they joined the ACC. They were in the Big East. They were beating up all these teams in the Big East, and they had a tremendously talented team. They could play with anyone. But once they got to the ACC, they have not won an ACC football championship, Miami, since they joined it, and it's fascinating. What happened? They won an ACC basketball championship and elevated their basketball program. Jim Larinaga did a great job about 8-10 years ago there. But UCF, how do they adjust to the week in, the week out grind of playing in a bigger conference? Ditto Cincinnati. Houston, who back in the day played in the Southwest Conference, and that'll be interesting. And ditto BYU, who was an independent for many years. And Mountain West program.
Yeah, the BYU was a good football. College football used to be on even ground.
Yeah.
And then it changed. and then you started having superpowers. BYU was a program that competed back in the day before the era of the superpowers. This is not going to
BYU basketball a decade ago. Jimmer Fredette, remember? Had a nice little run there. And
has it been that long ago? Come on, man.
Yeah, Claude. 2012. I covered the NCAA tournament back then or 2011. Yeah, Florida beat them, and then they got to the Elite Eight and they lost to Butler and Brad Stevens, but they beat Jimmer in the Sweet 16 that year. And Rick Riley, who was still a columnist for Sports Illustrated, referred to Jimmer as having YMCA hops.
Oh,
talk about a burn. You know what I mean?
Wait a minute. Who said that?
Rick Riley. Who is famous Sports Illustrated columnist, and I think he was writing for SI.com. Back then 10 years ago.
Oh man, that's a great one. YMCA hops.
YMCA hops. But Jimmer was like one of those guys like Tebow, like great college player who obviously didn't have the athleticism and the skills to translate to the next level, but was what he was a great college scorer.
YMCA hops. Love it.
Love Jimmer, though. Jimmer was, he was a college sensation. Sometimes you have players like that,
Hey, before I forget, I mentioned earlier, tonight is the Bloomington North-South game at Bloomington South. The college football playoff host committee tailgate. They're taken around the state. They've already been to several games. They go to 2 games each Friday. Tonight, they are at the Brownsburg at Avon game and the North at South game. So that's kind of a cool deal. If you're out and about and you're going to that game or going to the Brownsburg and Avon game, man, that ought to be a heavyweight slugfest. But the tailgate tour, 2022 host committee from Indianapolis going out and about. That's kind of a cool deal. So I'll see them out there. Looking forward to that. I know, Kevin, you're not going to be able to make that game, but I'm looking forward to going out there. And great night for a high school game on top of that. So get out and go see one if you have any reason to. And if you don't, just go do it anyway, because it's going to be a tremendous night.
Yeah. And it's always a great rivalry and so forth. So maybe I'll speak out there. You never know. But I did go 2 weeks ago, and it was a fun atmosphere. They do Bloomington South. They do the thing with the milk boxes where they put the coins in it and they shake it and stuff and everything like that.
Oh, you mean to make noise?
Yeah, to make noise. That's their kind of noisemaker thing. Yeah. And it was nice going up in the press box and seeing Jim Smith there. And Jim's a great guy.
Joe. I'm Jim. I'm the old Joe Blow, but Joe Smith,
Hall of Famer, great guy.
You know what? I should have had Joe on today. Damn it. Didn't think ahead.
You're allowed to curse on the air?
Damn it. I mean, really? That's about as.
Damn it, Cassidy.
That's pretty sanitary, man. That's pretty sanitary. Yeah, I wish daggone it. Wish I'd thought to have Joe on, man. He's always great.
Late Bobby Bowden, dadgummit. That's what you got to do. Dadgummit.
Well, he was a great one. But hey, how about Florida State and Miami? I don't think we've spoken since they played, have we?
You mean Florida State Notre Dame?
Yes, my bad.
FSU Notre Dame. Yeah,
Florida State showed some life, man.
They did. Mackenzie Milton, the former UCF guy, came in the second half. I actually watched the first half. I was, driving back from Iowa. I went to my favorite spot in Greenwood, and a lot of bandwagon Notre Dame fans in there. They were all excited early on. And,
hey, we got to get off and or take a break, rather, so Zach can join us. But man, there's a lot of games tonight we didn't really get to talk about. But
you need to do this ticket giveaway before Zach gets here.
Oh yeah, good question. I got to read it. You just sent it to me, so I've got to go back and. All right, we've got 4 tickets to the Idaho game tomorrow. If you can go, all you have to do is tweet the answer to me at Jim Coyle ISB, and the question is, Don Fisher said the school Simon Fraser sounded like the name of what from this week's show. But just send only if you can go, by the way, 4 tickets to the Idaho game. Send it to me on Twitter at Jim Coyle ISB. The answer to Don Fisher said Simon Fraser sounded like the name of what on this week's show appearance. Hey, we're back with Zach Osterman right after this. Psalms Restaurants bringing this segment to you.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fan. John's just ready to button. He's ready to touch it.
I started laughing because I didn't realize you realized too late about the Psalms thing, and I was like, well, shoot, I don't know. What
Can you fix that and poach?
It's fine, yeah.
I was like,
well, shoot, he doesn't know what to say.
Well, because when I started to say, I'm like, well, we didn't have a guest.
Well, I mean, you don't have to have a guest to have a sponsor.
I know, but it threw me off because it's always 4-1.
Yeah.
I didn't realize the CFP people were going to be there. Maybe I'll go because I want to get in good with them. I actually, did a story on them. And
hello, Zach. How are you, brother?
Hey, how are you doing? Hey, Kevin.
Hello, morning. Yeah.
What hat we got on there? Is that a Premier League hat or?
No, I picked it up at a Jason Isbell concert.
Oh, cool. Is it a logo? I can't even read it.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's
like his brand or whatever.
The dove flying through an anchor. It's like his logo. I don't know what
sounds like some Prince type stuff, man.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. How you doing, man?
Good, you?
Cannot complain, just running ragged.
Yeah.
Running ragged. I'm ready for vacation already.
I know that feeling.
Oh man, yep. Hope it's a game better week. Have they moved the Cincinnati game to 3:00?
I don't think so.
Okay, I've got it. All right, I've been getting these stupid notifications that saying there's been a change with this game, and I'm gonna pull them up.
No, it's at noon. They wouldn't move. I mean, 3:00 certainly. There's no
3:30 is what I meant. I keep
okay.
saying 3.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a noon game.
That's
When
nice.
they set those early season kickoffs, they don't usually move them.
Well, I got to figure out what the hell this is. Where are these emails?
Zach, you watched the men's national team the other night? Finally get a win in World Cup qualifying?
I had it on. I've been laying vinyl flooring in my basement all week. So it was on, but like I had it on so there was I had it on so that there was something in the background because the Braves game was pissing me off, but I wasn't.
Well, they're still comfortably in first, aren't they?
They are. I mean, there's not a good team in the East this year. You know, DeGrom's injury is screwed up the Mets and the Braves.
Well, here we go. 5 seconds. Sorry, guys.
Soroka, so.
This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat coming to you here on this Friday, TGIF. Couldn't finish it out any better than with Zach Osterman from the Indy Stars. Zach, how are you, man?
Hey, how you doing?
We're getting along. Your Braves are still rolling. I know you're not happy with how things have gone of late, but they're in first place. Ask Kevin Brockway, Mr. Mets fan there, how he feels.
Yeah, it's just been terribly frustrating watching. After the Mets, they had a good little run. They won 6 or 7 in a row, and now they can't beat the Marlins, and I guess the Braves can't beat the Nationals either. So it's just been one thing after another. Nobody wants to win the division, right, Zach?
Yeah, I mean it's just been a weird year. The Mets and the Braves have had a lot of injury issues. The Phillies just can't seem to figure it out. I think the one advantage the Braves probably have, and I think this was reflected a little bit last night, was just the muscle memory of winning a division title race, you know, and they've obviously won the last 3. But, you know, it's just, I mean, the Braves basically had to remake their entire outfield this season. And Acuna's been out hurt. Soroka never actually got healthy. Re-tore his Achilles tendon. It's just been a weird year. So
We still have 4 infielders that have hit over 25 overs. I mean, Riley's had a great year, and Swanson is, really emerging as well.
Yeah, he's slumping a little bit. Riley's slumping a little bit, but now you got Duvall hitting homers. Ozzy's warmed up again. So again, I think it. I mean, if you're asking me who should win it, it's probably Atlanta, but I don't know that. I don't know that any team coming out of the East should pack its bags for a long October.
A little bit of information from the Big 12, not a big secret, but they officially extend invitations to BYU, Central Florida, Cincinnati, who Indiana plays next week, and Houston. It's probably as good as they could have done in this situation, I think, with those 4 teams.
Probably. I was a little surprised at sort of the fact that Memphis just got no attention at all. And I know that at some level this is about TV market size and things like that. I get there are more TV markets in Florida. I just sort of wonder at the realistic at how realistic it is that UCF is what's going to crack you into them, basically.
Don't you think that's based totally on football? All 4 of those schools have relatively at the moment
level, because football is what drives television revenue, more than anything else. But Memphis, in theory, could bring you football and basketball, and a little bit like Louisville, kind of give you a captive market in the sense of, I know obviously the Grizzlies are in Memphis, but other than that, I mean, that is a University of Memphis town in the same way that Louisville, which market-wise is a small market, but because there is no other, professional top-tier professional sports team in the city, Louisville Athletics are an enormous draw and have enormous sort of brand power. And I think University of Memphis has that too, in a way that UCF doesn't. But I think this is a gamble on basically UCF football being something that is really here to stay.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I brought that point up to Jim also with, Orlando. I mean, you're competing with Florida, you're competing with Florida State. Is that how many TV eyes are you really going to get there?
Right. Like yes, you have more big TV markets in Florida, Orlando, Tampa, all those sort of South Florida markets, East and West Florida, Southeast and Southwest Florida around Miami. You can go up to the Panhandle, etc. But is UCF going to crack that for you? I don't know. Whereas Memphis is certainly going to give you Memphis. It's going to give you large portions of Mississippi. It's going to go into Arkansas. It's going to spread, west, probably as far as Nashville, frankly, in Tennessee. I was just a little. I get it. I don't think that the Big 12 is sitting here passing up the golden goose by not bringing in Memphis. I was just a little bit surprised. Houston made plenty of sense. BYU makes tons of sense. I suppose Cincinnati makes a fair amount of sense. I was a little bit surprised that Memphis wasn't getting as much, that there was just sort of this automatic, it's going to be UCF and Memphis gets left behind. But, the Big 12 is a conference that basically exists to make money. So that is why that conference was formed. It was basically just formed to play football and sign television contracts and sell, quite literally, as someone put it in the 90s, sell pickup trucks. So, I would imagine that they've done their market studies.
Dodge has certainly reaped the benefits. There's no doubt about that. Obviously, the basketball coaches are out on the road. The final fall evaluation period going on about several big-time, high-profile players being looked at by IU. Coaches are in different places. That lets Indiana football pretty much have the spotlight with a 7:30 game tomorrow night against Idaho. As I like to use Todd Leary's phrase, this should be a get-right game for this football team. It has to be. They've got some issues to solve on offense, Zach, that it was not catastrophic, but very concerning to see in that first game.
I mean, It was calamity. I mean, it was just kind of one after another, and it was the sort of game that almost kind of got away from Indiana so fast they never really had a chance to control it. Like the analogy I've made is like a boxer that just takes a couple shots to the jaw in the first round and is just never the same. Can't ever really get his legs back underneath him. And I think that this was always going to kind of be, I won't say get right game, but certainly I think that's a good phrase. But certainly a game that I'm talking about Idaho here, that Indiana could, afford to tinker a little bit, experiment a little bit. It is one now that, quite frankly, Indiana needs to win, a little bit convincingly. I mean, it would do this team a world of good to be up 24-0, with 10 minutes left in the second quarter, that kind of thing. I haven't seen a line yet. I don't know if one's out or not. I know sometimes 33.
30-0, I think it's 30 points as well.
Okay, so the point is, I also kind of wonder, I feel like I've seen Tom Allen in games like this shift into some kind of conservative mode fairly quickly. You think about the Rutgers game a couple years ago when they won 35-0. It felt like they probably could have put the pedal on the floor a little bit longer or a little bit sooner in that game. The Michigan State game last year, another one where I think they got vanilla in the second half offensively and maybe lost a little bit of rhythm. And I know you're always worried about, holding stuff back and not wanting to put stuff on film that you might want to use later in the season. But I do kind of wonder, after what I imagine is probably a tangible psychological blow from that Iowa game, if Indiana can get up ahead of steam and really just kind of get its boot on Idaho's neck, so to speak, I kind of wonder if there wouldn't be value in basically loosening the reins a little bit more and trying to put up a big number and just let this team, feel good and be able to point to it and say, hey, you scored 51 on Idaho. So, something like that. And we have to be careful. I don't, it's the easiest thing in the world after Indiana loses by 28 points to start talking about them beating somebody else by 50, and maybe disrespecting whatever Paul Petrino is going to be bringing in with Idaho. But this is a game Indiana needs to be winning convincingly, and it's a game that I'm not sure it wouldn't do them some good to be allowed to win convincingly, if that makes sense.
So I'm fascinated to see the crowd size. I think that's going to be interesting to me. Not having fans in 2020, obviously season ticket sales are up, but you lose to Iowa the first week. I mean, does that affect walk-up sales? Oh, and the other elephant in the room is COVID too. I mean, that's the other thing too. I mean, are people still a little leery about being in big crowds? There will be tailgating outside. I'm just curious your thoughts. I mean, what should be a reasonable expectation?
Yeah, night game crowds are always hit and miss in Indiana. Because you can get more people down tailgating, but you can also get more people that maybe aren't committed to staying for the whole thing. I mean, the Iowa game is undeniably going to depress some of it, but I also think too, really, I think that kind of the fan base is geared up for next week against Cincinnati. So I wonder too if it's maybe not the most amazing crowd in the world, but but Indiana still sells out next week. At least still packs the stadium. I know that the game itself is against Cincinnati is a sellout. So, I mean, it will be interesting, but again, like night games, especially as hard as it is to get back to Indianapolis right now, night games in Bloomington can be a little bit hit and miss, and maybe a little bit kind of like the stadium is pretty well full early on, but at halftime it clears out pretty substantially, especially if the game's beyond doubt because people just feel like they got to get home. So
yeah, absolutely. I've talked about that. The tailgating aspect, it could work against you when you have all day to tailgate. There's those who won't get past the tailgate. But I think that Indiana needs to have a solid performance in this game beyond question to keep that momentum. The tickets are sold for the Cincinnati game, but you need momentum going into that game from the fans, from the team, from everything for that to work. And but yeah, you're playing against a team that's in essence a Division II team. And I know it looked like a law firm last week. Simon Fraser by 68-0. But this is a Petrino coach football team. He knows he's going into a Big Ten environment, playing a Big Ten team that he probably watched. I'm sure he's thinking, man, maybe we got a shot at these guys, but they're going to unload everything they have. That's all they have to do.
Yeah, and I mean, I think they're also it's a pretty big paycheck game, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's $1 million is what Indiana's paid Idaho for this. So, I mean, there really is, kind of nothing lost for Idaho, and they at least probably got to feel good about themselves last week. I think Simon Fraser is a Division II team from Canada, if I'm not mistaken, which is just one of those things you don't. Needless to say, you don't see very often. But I mean, this is really the sort of game that like Indiana just they need to be able to win this, and they need to be able to win it fairly convincingly. And it's all right if they're a little bit slow out of the blocks, or, if it's 14-7 at the end of the first quarter or something like that. But, by half into the third quarter, Indiana needs to be in control of this thing.
Here's a bigger question, Zach. How much in control does Michael Penix Jr. have to be before Tom Allen has to seriously consider looking at things? Because you've got a guy in the wings that played a lot last year and coming back from 2 severe knee injuries is not I'd have to do the research, but have to dig and see what quarterback has been able to really do that. That's a feat. We've seen people try that, and it is very, very difficult to come back from that injuries 2 times. There's a big mental part of that aspect to it as well.
I mean, I don't think it's going to be a quick hook. I don't think. No. I think unless there's a physical concern, something is physically wrong with Penix. I don't think his job's at all under threat. Obviously, this season could get to that point at some point. But, I think it was telling to me that Iowa performance was as it was, and we really only saw Jack Tuttle. Listen, as much respect as Jack Tuttle has earned, and he has, we really only saw Tuttle once Allen basically got to a point where he just said it's not worth sending Penix out there to risk getting hurt. The game is beyond reach. And so we're going to get our backup some snaps. We're going to protect our number one, and we're going to brush this off and move on to week 2. I think we're a long way away from let's call it like a coach's decision quarterback change rather than something that's forced.
Kevin.
No, I think with, Mike, you give him, he's proven, you give him the rope that you need. I think he's going to have to work through this situation, the best that he can, really. And like I said before, I didn't see a problem with arm strength. Obviously he was caught in between on some of the, the scramble situation on the 3rd interception, but he's got zip on the ball. And
he was throwing it well. He was just throwing it in the wrong places. If you go back and look, he was missing open receivers. He wasn't, you could even, obviously we're not in his head and we're not on the sideline, but it felt like even on rewatch, you could see plays where you could watch him not going through his progressions the way the play was probably designed. Like you could almost see his eyes in his head, and you could just see the way that something was coming open and think, well, you surely the play was designed for you to be looking over there first. And that's just a comfort level thing that I think, you can't have a quick hook on a guy like that, because then he's never going to get that. He's going to be looking over his shoulder every time he screws up.
Well, he said the right things too, Zach, over the summer about, being in sync with his receivers. But I still think DJ Matthews, Kevin Buckley, I still think that's going to be a little bit of a process as well.
Yeah, there's just no simulating for it. And I was a bit bemused by IU fans who were critical of the program for handing Penix such a difficult test to start, as though Indiana was given an option to open with Iowa as opposed to just being told by the Big Ten like everyone else what they were going to start. But obviously it wasn't ideal, but it wasn't Indiana's choice. And, even this Cincinnati game, I've seen people say, why is Indiana playing Cincinnati? And it's like, well, when Indiana put this game on the schedule, Cincinnati's head coach, the guy who was then Cincinnati's head coach, is now a U.S. Senator. That's how much has changed since Indiana signed that game contract.
Who was that?
It was Tommy Tuberville.
Oh, he's a.
Oh,
I did
yeah.
not.
Coach
Oh,
Tubbs.
wow.
Tubbs.
Yeah, the
Tubbs.
famous. Didn't he walk off from a recruiting dinner to take a phone call for the job offer to Cincinnati from
That
Texas Tech?
Sounds right. I think he was at Texas Tech, and he was in a
at a dinner with a recruit,
and he basically and I think he may have finished the dinner, but then he obviously quit after that.
Tubbs was the linebacker coach at the University of Miami when I was in school there. So he's come a long way. In 30 years, he's a U.S. Senator, and I'm just a hack sports writer. So.
Zach, what are you expecting this weekend? Not necessarily a prediction, but what are you expecting to see or think that Indiana has to see? You pretty much said they've got to win comfortably.
Yeah,
and all that.
I think Indiana will win comfortably. It's a question of how comfortably. Again, I do wonder if it's worth maybe opening the playbook a little bit more than you would have otherwise, and just let.
How much of this is on Nick Sheridan?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always going to be. It's always going to start with a coordinator. I mean, just because it's a coordinator's job to be able to say, this is what we can do. This is Kevin Wilson used to say, your offense is what you can block. You can call it what you want, but if you can't block it, you can't run it. And, excuse me, sorry, I just dropped something. Nick Sheridan could probably build you a lot of different types of offenses. He's a smart coach. He's going to be looking – it's his job to look at what his head coach wants and then what his players are capable of and find the best places where those two meet. So it starts with him, undeniably. And I think that this is, again, just a weekend where maybe it would be worthwhile for everybody to be a little bit more revealing with the game plan, but allow everybody to just feel good again and just get some of that rhythm and that comfort back and shake loose whatever's remaining from Iowa, because you got a couple big games on the schedule coming up after Idaho.
And I think Tom Allen, too, is encouraged by Luke Haggard coming back and what that could do for the offensive line, which, let's face it, performed pretty poorly last week as well.
Absolutely, guys. I cannot thank you enough. Zach, I can't thank you enough as always. We appreciate it. I'll see you tomorrow, and Kevin as well. Thank you. I look forward to seeing you back in your regular spot on Tuesday. And hopefully if you're going to the game tomorrow, we'll see you guys out there. Don't have too much fun. Get into the stadium and make it a fun environment. Have a blast. But go out and have a great weekend. Do something nice for someone until Monday. Or I guess tomorrow I'll see you in one way or form. But until then, I'll see you on the radio.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, as always.
Thank you, guys. I